Tonight, the country has been taken aback by the brutal killing of Catherine Steinle by an illegal Mexican immigrant and repeat felon named Francisco Sanchez, who, according to reports, had been previously deported 5 times. Now, unfortunately, Steinle is far from the only person tragically harmed by an illegal immigrant living here in the United States. Joining me now to share their own devastating stories, Sabine Durden is with us. Her son Dominic was killed in 2012 during a traffic collision. The driver was an illegal immigrant. Also with us, Dan Golvak is with us, and his son Spencer was killed earlier this year in January, shot in the head by an illegal immigrant while waiting at a red light. Also joining us, Marianne Mendoza. Her son, Sergeant Brandon Mendoza, an off-duty police officer, was killed by a drunken driver in 2014. The driver, again, an illegal immigrant. First, to all of you, my thoughts, prayers, and condolences. I know this is devastating. You lose a family member. Sabine, let me begin with you. Tell us the story and your thoughts now that this debate has come to the forefront. What are your thoughts about where this all stands?
Hi, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
My thoughts are pretty basic. I'm not a politician. I don't care left, right, Tea Party, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. To me, what matters is that my only child, my son Dominic, is no longer with me. And it's not because he drove carelessly or he did anything wrong. It was because he was on his way to work on his motorcycle. And the guy that has been here for 8 years, committing many crimes, including felony, armed robbery, 2 DUIs, decided the law doesn't apply to him because there were no consequences before.
So in other words, this illegal immigrant had committed armed robbery, felonies,
yes,
all these crimes, and we still didn't deport the guy.
No, no. He didn't even have to serve much time if he did any. He just, regardless of what he was told not to do, he got in the car again and he drove that morning. Because 3 weeks prior to that, he was arrested for his second DUI.
Aren't
and
you
had no
angry?
license and no insurance.
I would be so angry, and I'd feel so betrayed by our government for not doing their job and deporting him.
I'm very angry, and I've been fighting this and talking. You had me on before, and I appreciate you very much. I've been fighting about this. I know other families now that have been fighting this for years, but it's been swept under the rug. And even though Donald Trump didn't use the words I would have used, and his message is a little rough. Okay, but I thank him for bringing this up front and for having this conversation. And people's feelings are hurt. Well, my heart is ripped apart, and these other families here, our lives will never be the same. He was my only child.
And it could have been prevented. That's one of the big tragedies. Dan, let me go to you. Your son, Spencer, shot in the head? Explain this, the background in this story.
Well, Sean, it was back on January 31st. He had dropped his girlfriend off. He took her out. It was her birthday, and they celebrated, and he had to get back to his apartment. On the way home, he stopped at a red light, and this illegal alien who had been deported 4 times and had a rap sheet that dated back to 2001 that was violent. He did 63 months in a federal prison, had been released, and he re-entered he was deported, then he re-entered the country for the 5th time, and so he pulled up next to my son, drew his gun, and blew my son's brains out. It didn't end there, though, because he moved on down the road, and 20 minutes later shot another young man by the name of Juan Garcia, who was 28 years old. Then he shot a couple, and then he was pursued by a police officer at Harris County Sheriff's Department, and exchanged fire, and the Sheriff's Department deputy took him out. But it was very similar to what happened in San Francisco, in that the killer had been, had a long history of violent crimes and in and out of jails, and 4 times deported.
4 times deported. I would be, again, livid and feel betrayed that our government didn't protect your family with known people that shouldn't have been here, committed crime after crime, and they never deported them. I don't know if I'd ever get over that anger.
It's the strange thing is, Spencer's mother and I, we don't think about the killer that much. We feel like he was more or less a foot soldier, and It's our government that did this. It's cherry picking laws, regardless of it. It could be because you're trying to import votes or you're trying to import cheap labor. It doesn't matter. The laws are being cherry picked, and there's consequences to that. And my son paid the consequences.
Mary Ann Mendoza, you lost your son.
Yes.
Sergeant Brandon Mendoza. Tell us your story.
He had just left work and he was heading home, and Raul Silva had been driving over 38 miles the wrong way on 4 different freeways in Phoenix, and slammed head-on into my son on a curved off-ramp that my son was going on. He had no heads up what was happening to him. Raul Silva had been charged up in Colorado many, many years ago for burglary and for assaulting an officer, and he was released to come back to court. He never showed up, and 10 years later they found him at the border re-entering the United States. And when he appeared back in court to face his charges, they provided leniency for him, and he spent no time in jail. You know, and I'm looking at this thinking, and listening to all these other stories thinking, the leniency that our government is showing these illegals is costing innocent American lives. And if somebody doesn't stand up and start speaking the truth, as I feel Donald Trump did, maybe in not the perfect way, but if people don't start speaking the truth and acknowledging that we have a problem at the border for the sake of getting votes, I am getting more and more disgusted with politicians in this country.
So am I. I feel there is no excuse for this. You all lost family members needlessly, your children. And when you consider, ICE released over 315,000 people last year, not 3,000 or 30,000, 315,000, and over 177,000 of those were criminals. When the state of Arizona, when the city of Phoenix, 75% of the people on our most wanted list are illegals. When 40% of the criminals in our jail system are illegals, if you can't tell me this is a problem with illegals in this country, and I'm just talking about Phoenix at this point, it's astronomical what's happening across this country and what's happening to innocent American lives. Our thoughts, prayers, and condolences go out to all of you. I'm also thankful that you're willing to share your story so that maybe there's a greater awareness of a problem I think needs to be solved very quickly. Thank you all for being with us. Appreciate it.